It's a special edition on this Monday afternoon of PFTPM. Didn't really expect to be doing one today. And at first blush, when I saw the news that the Bengals had applied the franchise tag for the second straight year to receiver Tee Higgins, I thought, can wait till Tuesday morning. We got 2 hours of PFT Live. We can break it down then. But then I decided there's enough here to at least address the issues that are implicated by this decision by the Bengals to do something they've never done before. They have never tagged a guy twice. And for everyone they've ever applied the franchise tag to, he wasn't with the team the year after he had been tagged. And the only guy that ever got a long-term deal who was tagged by the Bengals was receiver Carl Pickens. He signed a long-term deal but was cut after that 1 year following the application of the tag. So this is already unprecedented for the Bengals. The question becomes, what happens next? It was just last week the director of player personnel, Duke Tobin, told reporters they were working toward a long-term deal with Tee Higgins. Later that same day, Higgins took to social media to post the cap emoji, which I have learned in recent years means he's saying someone is lying. Now, there was nothing else that day that was out there about Tee Higgins. Maybe it dealt with something else, but common sense tells us that it probably had to do with what Tobin said. And we know that players use social media to send messages. That's been established over the past few years. So he didn't believe it last week when they said they were working toward a long-term deal. And that's important now because in the official announcement by the Bengals regarding the application to tag to Higgins, they say they're doing it with the intent of continuing to work toward a long-term deal. By the time you see this, it's possible Higgins will have tweeted another cap emoji. Here's the problem with a long-term deal. At a franchise tag number of $26.16 million this year, and that is a 20% bump by rule over what his tag number was last year. Tag a guy a second time, you got to give him a 20% bump over whatever his tag number was in year one. Come year three, the number becomes astronomical. For a receiver or for anyone other than a quarterback, the third franchise tag becomes the average of the 5 highest cap numbers at the quarterback position for this year. Whatever those numbers are, it's going to blow away whatever the top of the receiver market is. There's no way the Bengals will use the tag a third time on Higgins. So what it means for Higgins is this. He's got 1 more year at $26.16 million. And he's guaranteed a shot at the open market next year. So if they're going to sign him to a long-term deal, you got to think of it this way. The bird in the hand, $26.16 million plus a straight shot next year to free agency versus whatever the Bengals offer on a long-term deal. They've got to offer him enough to get him to say, I'll give this up. And until they offer him enough that giving up $26.16 million fully guaranteed and a clear shot at the market next year, until that happens, he just says, no, I'm not going to do it. They have until July 15 to work out the long-term deal. After that, he can only have a 1-year deal. Now, it could be for 26.16. It could be for more. It could have other terms in it, but the duration is limited to 1 year after July 15. Bottom line is this. The Bengals have their work cut out for them to do a long-term deal with Higgins, especially because they got another guy, the guy who won the Triple Crown this year with receptions, yards, and touchdowns, Jamar Chase. He's going to want at least $40 million a year in new money. He might want significantly more than $40 million a year in new money, and you could argue that he's worth it. How are they going to pay both guys long term? It's possible that this is just a placeholder before they trade him. Possible. I'm not saying it will happen, but when you're trying to manage all these different positions and make the cap dollars work and the cash, remember the cash is very important to some teams, like the Bengals, who count every single penny. Maybe they'll trade him, clear the $26.16 million in cash and cap obligation off the books, and move on. Money for Chase, money for Trey Hendrickson, money for Mike Gesicki, money for other guys. Now, the other element here that bears watching is the fact that quarterback Joe Burrow is watching, and he's watching carefully. And the things he said recently, most notably his comments to the guys at Pardon My Take, he's putting pressure on the team to start spending money on some of these other players. He pointed to the Eagles. The Eagles have found a way to pay both receivers, to pay their tight end, to pay key players on the other side of the ball, to pay their quarterback a market level contract, at least at the time he signed it. If the Eagles can do it, other teams can do it. You just have to want to do it. And I have suspected that what the Bengals are attempting to do is create the impression for Burrow that they're trying, but we just can't do it. These guys want too much. We'd love to do it for this amount, that amount, this structure, that structure, but they just want too much. They're being too greedy. They're being too selfish. They're not thinking about the team. I think eventually the Bengals are going to try to make that argument to Burrow as it relates to Higgins, maybe as it relates to Chase, maybe as it relates to Hendrickson, maybe as it relates to others. The bottom line is this. They are going to have a hell of a time signing Higgins to a long-term deal because it will take a significant guarantee beyond this year to get him to give up what he has guaranteed this year, plus his guaranteed shot at free agency in 2026. So this is hardly the end. This is the beginning. And where it goes from here will determine Higgins' future, and it might determine the short-term and long-term future of what the Bengals are going to be now that they have a franchise quarterback who can make them contend with whoever they happen to have around him. He's demanding that they make sure they have better players around him. Higgins will be one of the upcoming litmus tests on whether or not the Bengals are serious about making it happen. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.